Hey kids, this is Mr. Briggs coming to you from my classroom. But as you can probably tell, I might not be in your classroom, or you're looking at this video so that you can understand how to do today's lesson. And today's lesson is your first lesson in using a particular website called tinkercad. Now, tinkercad is an online CAD program. Now, CAD, C-A-D, stands for Computer Aided Design. And it is how most things today are designed on computers, sent to factories to be built, or sent to 3D printers to be printed. We will probably not be printing today's project. Today's project is to learn how to use some of the features of tinkercad to make a very simple box that is 30 by 20 by 40 millimeters in size. And that will then lead to us making another more advanced model. So let's go ahead and get started. So we are in this program called tinkercad, and what we're going to do is hit the sign in button. Now, if you haven't already, sign into your email. Once you're signed into your email, go to tinkercad.com, and you're going to hit this button up here called sign in. And what it's going to ask you to do is sign in, but you're not going to use your email. This is a important trick. Go down here and hit sign in using social providers. Now, we are not going to sign in with Facebook or Yahoo or Microsoft. We are going to use Google since we are a Google school. And it will ask you probably a few questions if this is the first time that you have ever used this. But what it will do then is ask you which account you want to use and log you in using your Google account. Takes a little bit here. And it will take you to one of two places. It will either take you to a demo on how to use tinkercad for the very first time, or it will take you, oh, my lights went out, or it will take you to this page. If it's not taking you to this page, click the tinkercad icon up here, and it will take you to what's called the dashboard. And the dashboard has all the projects you have been working on. Well, we are going to hit Create New Design, since this is the first project that we are working on. And this is going to give us a blank canvas, a blank thing to build on. And we need to build our box. Now, our box needs to be 30 by 40 by 20, but millimeters in size. Now, first let's familiarize ourselves a little bit with tinkercad and how it works. Here we have the work plane, and the work plane is where all of the stuff sort of exists. We can rotate our work plane by clicking on this. You can also rotate the work plane if you've got a touch screen by touching the screen and moving it around. You can also zoom in by using two fingers or using the buttons here. My advice would be to use a mouse. And a mouse lets you do a lot of different things. You can use the wheel on the mouse to zoom in or zoom out. You can use the left button to rotate and move it around, or the right button to rotate it or move it around. You can also click on the mouse button. The mouse button is actually a button. You click on the wheel, and it lets you drag this around to get different views. Really, the key to this, to making a really good print, to making a really good product, is being able to see it from all these different angles. So let's go ahead and start making our box. The first thing I'm going to do is go over here to my menu, my shapes. Now, tinkercad gives you all of these basic shapes. You can also click on here and get lots of different other interesting shapes. We're going to stick with the basics today. And the basics we want to do is make our box. So we're going to grab a box and drag it into our work plane. And when it drags it into the work plane, some things happen. The first thing we have is we have these buttons here. The little box up here will let me change how tall this is. The little things here will let me change the width and the depth of my box. And then I have this tiny little cone. And that cone actually lets me lift my box off the ground or under the ground It controls how high my box is. And you can see these little numbers on the side. These little numbers on the side report and let you fine tune things. You can also click the box, and if it's selected, use the arrow keys to move your box up, down, left, or right. And that helps you kind of fine tune where things are positioned. What we need to do though, is we need to make a box that is 40 by 20 by 30. So first I'm going to click a side here. If you click that box and just click it, don't click and drag. If you click and drag, it lets you change the size. But if you just click it once, you can hover your mouse over these numbers and put in a value. So we're going to put in a value of 40, and we're going to put in a value here of 20. I'm sorry, of 30. And now I have a 40 by 30 box. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I can also click that top one here, and I can change the height. I'm making this 20 tall. So now if I click this, you can see I have 40 by 30, and if I click this one, you can see it's 20. Well, this is my box right now, but I need to make an empty box. I need to make a box that I can put stuff in if I printed it. So to make my box something I can print that has an empty space inside it, I need to make another box. But I need to make another box that's slightly smaller. So to do that, I could drag out another box here. I could put in some numbers and change it. But why would I want to do that? Why would I want to do that when I've got this really great computer that lets me copy and paste stuff? So let's go ahead and copy and paste some stuff. I'm going to click my box and look up here at my tools. I've got a button here that says copy. I've got a button here that says paste. I've got a button here that says duplicate. And I have a button here that says delete. Well, I don't want to delete it. And I could copy and paste it, or I could press the duplicate button. And if you press the duplicate button, watch what happens. Watch. Nothing. But actually, something did happen. If you click that box and drag, you will see it made an exact copy of that shape. So I got two boxes, right? Well, I need to make a hole now. I need to carve out the inside of my shape. So to do that, I go over to the shape tools here. And as you can see, there's all these things here that can control the different functions of my box. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where it says, I'm going to change it from a solid to a hole. And a hole, there goes my lights again, a hole basically makes a negative space. It basically says carve out this stuff. So I now have a box that if I drag it into that box, it will erase the parts of the box that I drag it into. It sounds complicated, but you're going to see it all in a second. But I need this empty space to be just a little smaller, just a little smaller. So I'm going to click a corner, and instead of 40, I might make it 35 millimeters. And instead of 30 millimeters, I might make it 25 millimeters. That means I'm going to have about 5 millimeters on the edges, right? And now I can use my arrow keys to move that box inside the other box, right? And I'm going to make a mistake right here. I'm going to make a mistake right here, and I'm going to undo it. And I'm going to do this mistake to show you two things. One, I'm going to show you how to undo a mistake if you make one. So I've got this box, I've got the hole in it. I'm going to select everything by clicking and dragging, and now I've selected two shapes. And what do I want to do with those two shapes? Well, I want to combine them into one new shape. I want to basically, bake them together and they become one thing. So I use a button up here at the top called Group. And that Group button takes those two shapes and combines them. Now watch what happens when I hit the Group button. Something starts happening, and it grouped them, and now I have two shapes. But what's my problem? My problem is there's a hole in the bottom of my box. It's not going to be any good. So I need to undo that mistake. You can always undo. Go up to the corner here, and there's a button up here called Undo, or I can hit the Control-Z button. And that undoes, basically hits rewind on the last thing I did. So remember how when we were making birdhouses, I told you can't uncut a board? You can't uncut something? You can't undrill something? Well, you can with CAD, which is one of the really great things about it. You can undo those mistakes. So I just undid that mistake. What was my problem? My problem was this box is exactly the same height. I need to lift that box up just a little bit. So I'm going to grab the cone on the inside of this box and lift it up. How much am I going to lift it up? Well, on the bottom here, you can see that little gap. That tells me how much I'm lifting it up. Right now I'm 1 millimeter off the ground. I want to lift it maybe 5 millimeters off the ground. Okay. And after I've hit it about 5 millimeters off the ground, let's see here, 4 and 5, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to group everything. I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to group everything. And right here, I now have my basic box. And if you just want a basic box, if you just want a 3, all you have to do to get a 3 is make sure you have a picture of this box. Use the screenshot function on your keyboard, and that is the control button and the little button above the 6 should do a screenshot if you're in Chrome, and take a picture of this box so that you can prove to me you know how to make a box. That gets you a 3. Do we want a 3? You want to get a 4, don't you? And if you want to get a 4, keep watching this video. To get a 4, we need to make this a fancy box. So how might I make it a fancy box? Well, I might put my name on it. So I'm going to drag this text into this. And this text, well, I need to change it from text to something else. So I'm going to put my name on it, Mr. Briggs. But this is way too honkin' big. So the first thing I need to do is shrink it down. And I need to shrink it down. And one of the cool things about it is I can shrink it down exactly the size I need it. This is going to be 40 millimeters long. I need this to be 40 millimeters long. But see how big and chunky that is? I need to bring it down a little bit. So I'm going to bring this down from 8 millimeters to maybe 3. But now I've got another problem. How do I stick it to that box? Well, you may have noticed that on these shapes, right, there's these little curvy arrows, and those little curvy arrows let you rotate things. So I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees, and then I'm going to rotate it this way 90 degrees. Now, sometimes if you're in a really weird view, you're like, I can't rotate that. Just change the view of your project, and you'll get those arrows. So I'm going to rotate this another 90 degrees and put it on the front of my box. And this is an important thing. If I did want to print this, what would happen? The bottom of my letters here would go away. It would not work. I need those bottom of those letters to be at the bottom of my box. So I'm going to use that little cone, lift it off the ground, and I can tell I'm 0 off the ground because this button right here tells me I am. And I'm going to check every single side of this. What's really important, and a lot of people make this mistake, is they take this shape and they think they have it attached because it looks like it's attached, but when you look up close, you can tell it's not actually attached. And if it 3D prints that, these letters will not be attached to your box. You need to put them just inside the box, like so, and look at it from every angle you can to make sure nothing's hanging off the edge. Then I'm going to select everything and I'm going to group them. I might even change the color, right? Now, what else do I want to do? Well, I could do some other features. I could put a lid on this. I could make it so I have a lid that flips up and down. Some people have done that. I could make this a little mini toolbox, put handles on it. I could put a little gripper on it. I could put holes on it, use it as a little cricket cage to hold little bugs and stuff. Whatever you're going to do, make sure your box is still 40 by 30, okay? If it's 40 by 30, you're getting a 3. If it's 40 by 30 and you've added extra stuff, and you tell me what you've added, then you get a 4, okay? That's how you make a box using tinkercad, okay? If you have any questions, you can rewind this video, you can pause this video, you can raise your hand, you can ask a neighbor. It's all good. Have fun.